recording, yeah.
We're ready. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Welcome to No Name Games. Again,
Games.
part 2.
Part 2. We made it to part 2, eh?
Incredible. I didn't think we would.
Well, it's a good sign.
The first show was all over the place.
You think so?
I think so. I think we owe it to our audience and our listeners to have a little bit more structure and not be crazy.
What listeners?
You and I, first of all, we owe it to ourselves.
I think like...
Isn't that part of it? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I listened to the first podcast. I think I listened to it like 30 times.
Nah.
I lied to you and told you that I only heard it twice.
I actually just heard it once. I can't stand listening to myself too much.
I only listened to myself. I muted you every single time.
You edited the podcast.
I totally edited it.
Awesome.
So yeah, in that same in that spirit, what we want to do today is actually give some more structure to the podcast. So we have a guest with us today.
Yes.
We would like to introduce Troppy P. Is her
Hello.
name. And Troppy P is here for a number of reasons. First of all, we totally kidnapped her and put her in this room and told her that she had to
Made
do
her
this.
wait.
Yeah, made her wait a long time. But the point is to have her here because the topic that we have today that we want to talk about is about gaming, of course, as it is the backdrop to most of our conversations. But gaming in the sense of, you know, what is it like dating a gamer? What is it like dating a guy gamer? What would it be like dating a girl gamer? And what are all the different things that happen in that?
And when you're not a gamer or know nothing about video games.
Exactly.
Right. So that's the perspective
And what's
you're going
the
to get.
perception of it? Because
Yes.
maybe, I don't know if you've dated a gamer or whatever, but what's your perception of somebody who's a gamer? And I wanted to add also that this is, in the future, we should plan for also having the because this is the female side.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe have the side from a man.
Right.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. Man.
So
Gaming.
I just want to make that clear right now, just for all those, you know, feminists that are going to be listening to us.
Yeah.
Or
We have so many.
or equality people that we're thinking of that, and this is the female version of how they see men, maybe potential dating men,
Or women.
as
Yeah,
gamers
or
or
women.
women.
Yeah.
You know, I think we
Equal
should
rights.
just leave it
Yeah.
open. I think
Yeah.
we should just leave it. I think these rules might be. I think
Go for both sides.
they're gonna work for both sides because once
Well, I didn't know you were open. But
Once we
that's
get
fine.
it-
I mean, I'm just...
this totally derails the podcast. No Name Games episode 2. The end.
I'm just saying you can represent, you know,
Yeah, of course.
straight or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You know, games are that way. They're beautiful that
Yeah.
way. That and you know they're for everyone and they're for no one. That's what we're here to talk about. So I think part of what we want to talk about, and I think the questions are going to lead us down like a really interesting path because each question and each topic has its own I think its own agenda. So if you think about this, so I'm going to ask this question, right? We're going to think about it for a couple seconds and then I want Troppy P to give me her perspective because I think, you know, you're going to hear us ad nauseum, but since we have a guest today, we'll let her go first.
Of
So
course.
I pulled some information. You know, I was just looking online, wondering, you know, what is it that women think of guy gamers? So is there a list of rules that you know would think if I meet a guy and he tells me, oh, you know, I like to play games, you know, what triggers in your mind when some guy says that to you? Do you immediately think, oh my God, whatever, you know, I'm gonna run the other way, or do you think maybe I should give this guy a chance? Nerd alert, you know, maybe I'll give him a chance, maybe he's cute, but or no, you know, I've had a bad experience before, my friends have had a bad experience. So I'll just put that one out there and then we'll get into the second one. So what do you think, first of all? A guy tells you he's a gamer.
It depends on the intensity of the game. You know what I'm saying? Or the intensity of how much the person plays.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're gonna if we're not gonna go out to dinner on a Friday night because you're gonna play a game,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That to me is like, but I don't think that someone would reveal that like on the first date. They'd probably be like, no, we'll go out like for
Yeah.
sure. But if it's like I'm gonna play 15 minutes on my phone every day, that may be like, you know. But I think that it comes down to immediately I would think like, I don't know, immaturity. because I think that I'm used to seeing little boys play video games.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's
So-
a culture. Maybe it's a cultural
Yeah,
thing.
so I think that if like an older guy is playing a video game, I would maybe like relate that to immaturity.
Okay, so that's a tough one, man. She just shot down so many people. Those are just immature little punks.
I'm out.
We're out. So how would do you want to
What's
take
your
this?
rebuttal?
Well,
about it,
I have something to say about that, because that was exactly the reason I met somebody recently.
Congratulations.
And
Woo.
thank you.
Tell us more.
Yeah.
On another episode. So I met somebody recently, and there was this point where when she asked me literally, what are things that she should know about me? And for some reason I felt, not for some, I mean, because of past experiences with girls, I felt the need to let her know that I play
I am
games.
a gamer.
And that was like, my response was, I do this. This is one of my many hobbies. And this is the reason why I'm telling you this. And the reason I told her is exactly what you just said. I feel that we are perceived as immature because we play games.
Yeah.
And
Right.
those things are for kids. So it's interesting that you kind of corroborated my entire point of view of how I feel I've been perceived.
Yeah.
And also it's past experiences and friends of mine that I see that are like, they're married or have girlfriends, and gaming is a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
Like friends of mine have to have the chance to play games, and I see that a lot, and it's kind of, push me to feel this need to tell, hey, first thing you gotta know, among other things, is that I play games. I like playing games, and it's like my little space.
Yeah, you carved that out there, and I think that's actually the most important part about what you said, is that that's your space. So if you think of it that way, one of the things, and this would be my answer, is it immature? Absolutely. It is probably one of the most immature, stupid things that I do, but it is so much fun, and maybe there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and maybe the act of it can be a very intelligent thing, because some of these games
Right.
are really complicated, and you have to get really smart about what you're doing, and you have strategy and things like that. But there isn't really any difference if you consider the fact that I could also just go out and have a beer with my friends.
Right,
I could
right.
also just go out and play soccer or play basketball with my friends. And it's really, I'm just choosing to not do it that way, but choosing to do it in a virtual world. So maybe it's because of the way I was brought up, or maybe because of my past experiences. And I mentioned that in the first podcast, that the way I grew up, my Atari was my friend and my Nintendo was my friend, before I became more of an extrovert. So I didn't really reach out to people and start hanging out, and I defaulted to games. So later on, when I was like, oh, going out's so fun, it's so cool. And then I was like, you know what? After going out for a while and spending a lot of money, and just seeing that what was out there really wasn't what I was looking for, I said, I'm just gonna play games again for a little while. So I see both sides. I see that it could be an immature thing, especially if you let it take over your life.
Right.
And that's part of the other list that I have. For
Wait. But I
before
have
we
a
get to
question.
that, yeah.
I have a question. So, what do you think of somebody who would go to the movie theater and watch a Spider-Man movie?
No, I think it'd be normal.
It's normal.
Yeah.
Why is it so different to play a Spider-Man game?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what to tell you about. Like, I don't know why
It's-
one thing is like perceived immature and why the other thing isn't,
Okay.
I
And
don't-
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No. It's a good question. It's honestly like opening up my mind. Which is,
There's one thing also that, like my point of view of playing games, it's a little bit different. I mean, it's entertainment, of course, and I have fun and all that. But when I'm playing games,
Sometimes
I'm a computer
I don't have any
animator.
fun. Sometimes I play games.
Oh
where I'm
yeah.
just
Sometimes
crying
I
the
can't
whole
play
time.
stressful
Yeah.
games.
Like Dark Souls makes me cry.
No, I can't play those games.
But
I
I
love
love
them.
it.
I love
I'm a
to see
masochist.
them, but
Yeah.
I can't. But one thing is that as a computer animator myself, when I'm playing game, it's kind of my mind. How somebody put it is, you're always working.
right.
because what I'm doing while I'm playing
It's like,
games
yeah,
is
it's like
analyzing everything I'm
Right.
looking
It's
at.
like a strategy, like
Yeah.
you mentioned.
You don't give your mind the chance to rest. And I think that that's something that, again, going back to what my grandmother used to say, and I'll say it in Dominican Spanish because it's the only way it makes sense. Ese muchacho tiene un vicio.
Ese muchacho tiene un vicio ahí el día entero frente a ese televisor,
Exactly. So
frente
that
a esa computadora. Chiqui, 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 chiqui.
chica chica el día entero. So, I knew my grandmother had an issue with it because she thought, he just came from school. He spent all day in this learning environment. And now it translates into adulthood. I spend all day at work,
Right.
and then I'm going to go home, and the first thing that I want to do
Right.
is get on my computer, or get on my Xbox or my PlayStation,
Right.
and continue, the stimulus. By the time you get into bed, you're exhausted. And I want you to know that every gamer out there will tell you that the reason that you go to sleep is not because you wanted to stop playing, is because your body just physically says, bro, take a break.
Yeah, your
Sleep
mind is
3
good.
hours. You can't bank sleep. You can't say, I'm going to sleep 15 hours one day, and then since I got extra sleep that day, I'm only going to need 2 hours. It doesn't work that way.
I don't
you
know
that
about
way.
that.
I mean,
I
there's-
never got to that point. but
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
where you're coming from.
So let me pivot a little bit for the audience. So I also polled pivot. We have
Is
more
that a
questions.
Friends episode?
Friends,
It is. I read also some things that women wrote about how to date guy gamers. So there are techniques that you can use, that may make you more open to dating guy gamers, or maybe just keeping more of an open mind as to what they're doing, so you don't think that it's all craziness. So, for example, these are some of the things that I pulled, and I'm actually just going to read a part of this article because I think it's hilarious. So it's actually called "Why Dating Guy Gamers is a Bad Idea." Okay, so this is a bad idea. All right. So and this is by Magdalene on Jellyfish Station. So if anybody wants to look it up, so she says, "Sure, it seems fun at first. Mostly because it's comfortable. Every night is like pajama sleepover that ends in sex. That's the American dream. That's before spending every night playing League of Legends and Assassin's Creed, and that gets really, really boring." So this person dated a lot of men who considered themselves gamers. And I think some of the things that she says are the things that I wanted to talk about. A lot of the people that she says she dated lacked real world motivation. So the reason that they were playing games is to kind of
Like a
escape.
disconnect. Yeah.
A disconnect as an escape. And I do see that as a child and as a young adult, I did that. I totally did that. I totally played games to escape. But as an adult,
It's also to escape, but in a different way.
but it's like a measured escape. I know exactly how much time I can spend on the games. I know how much to meter out how much time I'm playing.
Or you're forced to.
And I'm
Right.
In a lot of ways. Well, not really.
Well,
Because I'll
I
tell
mean,
you what. At midnight, when everybody's sleeping, I could, if I wanted to play World of Warcraft from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., I could.
You
Well,
hate
but-
your life.
But I will suffer the consequences.
We have responsibilities.
Right? Yeah.
It's
So-
not like when we were kids that,
Right.
we could
Right.
just not sleep.
So I think the
Playing
problem is if you're just gaming
But do you
exclusively.
think that everyone knows that? I mean, not every gamer knows that limit.
Yeah.
And if you're dating someone who's not motivated, male or female, maybe they're not. They will play from midnight till 8 in the morning, and then how are you gonna live like a very balanced life?
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying?
But you could apply that then to anything. Anything that person is doing obsessively is not allowing them to.
Well,
to
but
do
there's
anything.
one thing also. I mean, we talk about gamers, and I consider myself a gamer, even though I don't play probably more than 2-3 hours every 2-3 days.
Yeah, there's different levels. of gaming.
Exactly. There's different
So-
levels of gamers for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
There's one side of gamers that are like 24/7 playing,
Right.
Yeah.
but there are other gamers maybe like me that are more casual.
Yeah.
Right.
I will still consider myself a gamer because I like
Right.
playing games.
Right.
But what do you think about that? I mean, how is your perception of that level? Would you think differently if it's somebody that you see and you can tell, well, he plays sometimes?
Yeah, of course, definitely. I think everything is balance, honestly. And if like you're constantly sacrificing like time with your like partner, maybe I think it is nice to like share that time together.
Yeah.
But if it's constantly sacrificing doing other things just to do that, I think that that's
Yeah.
also like
Yeah. I agree completely.
Yeah.
But I've seen the case a lot of people that are like me, but then the girlfriend or the wife is pissed off because you're playing games
Right.
when you could be with me.
Right.
Like
Right.
you're not
Right.
dedicating time to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's this guy who plays maybe once a week.
Yeah.
So talking about balance,
Right.
I mean, if the guy or the girl likes it, I mean, it's also balanced the other way around.
Right.
I think you have, and that's why you mentioned it to the girl that you're dating right away, because you know what, the truth is faster, right? Let's just get down to the truth. Hey, I
didn't want to bullshit.
You know, why have her figure it out? You know, it's better to just tell her right up front, and if she doesn't want to participate, then you know,
one day
X to the next, bro.
Oh. What is all this?
Yeah,
a PlayStation, a computer? What the fuck?
What are you doing with these? You can say, let me show you.
Do you have kids?
I do. These are all my video game children.
Doom, God of War,
bloody
games.
Mario, Luigi, these are my babies. Interestingly enough, if you think of only games exclusively, then what are your other interests? So that's another question. So if you're a gamer, you know, do you like cooking? Do you like sports? Do you like music? Do you like art, fashion outside of gaming? You know, because we talk a lot about gaming as, again, the backdrop to everything. And it means a lot to us that it is that way. We look at, for example, the other day I was in Barnes & Noble looking at the art of Blizzard games. And it's this massive tome, you know, with 300 pages of the art of the game. And I just sat there and like literally paged through half the book, and I was mesmerized and I loved it. But I would do the same if I was at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. I would sit there for hours and look at those paintings in the same way. I think it does matter that you have other things to do outside of gaming, just to have a healthy life. Now, that being said, I'm also the guy that played World of Warcraft 30 to 40 hours a week.
Yeah. That's like a
to keep up.
Yeah.
Outside from my job, outside from a full-time job. So I know one extreme and the other.
And were you dating at that time?
I was.
And how did that go?
And it went so well. Which leads me to my next point, which is gamers don't take care of themselves.
Okay.
So there's this perception that if you're a gamer, and it's not that you're unhygienic, it's that you've got an old T-shirt. How do you smell? You did the smell test? Are you good? Good. You've got that old T-shirt that you're just wearing, and you need to throw it out. And when you meet a girl,
like the one you're wearing now.
No. Yeah, no, this is an Attack on Titan shirt that I've had for like 6 months, but it might have a hole in it. I don't know.
That's the look. That's the vintage look.
That's totally the gamer look. So I'm up that alley right now. But so I think that's part of it. And there's a lot of different things to say about the way people look. And I think that's another misconception, is that gamers are dirty. Gamers are unhygienic. Gamers don't take care of themselves. Sure, they spend a lot of time playing the games, and during that time, I think you've seen the South Park episode where they play World of Warcraft, where Cartman is actually sitting in the basement, and his mother is bringing him a bowl for him to poop.
So
that
I've heard stories like
that.
So
that's the extreme, right? I mean,
but do you think that? Have you thought about that? Is that something?
I mean, I honestly, like, in my dating life, I haven't dated someone who's so intense of a gamer, because I, probably for obvious reasons, I just wouldn't be able to deal with it. But like, I mean, I've dated people that like video games, and I feel like they kind of hide it from me.
Yeah.
Because they probably, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, but.
So you're saying that
you've
you've met people who are kind of ashamed of letting you know.
I think
that they
like
play
it's
games.
well, I mean, okay, so like, why would you feel the need to bring it up on a first date? Because it's like, not that you're ashamed of it, but you're like, okay, I gotta put all my I gotta put it on the table that it's like, this is something that I do. But at the same time, maybe they weren't so intense of gamers that they like had to tell me that I'm like a full-time gamer, you know?
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I guess it would be weird to say I play basketball Tuesday nights and Thursdays.
Yeah, exactly.
First date.
I was gonna say that.
I play.
I go to movies.
And I go to the movies. You know.
Yes.
But I still find it. I still think it's nice to offer that up front, because.
But I think another side of it would be to regard it as a hobby.
Right.
Because saying I'm a gamer and then being like I like video games, it's like as a hobby, you know? I like to do this, and I like to play video games.
Yeah, I think that's where I was referring to. Like for me, gaming is a hobby more than
when
something Here's the difference. I once talked to a friend of mine, and I told him gaming is something that I do. For you is what you do.
Yeah.
Not something that he does. It's
Right.
what he does.
Right.
And for me, it's completely different. It's something that
you do as a
You
hobby.
enjoy
That's a
doing.
hobby.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
do as a
yeah,
hobby.
yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, because here's the third thing, which is when if you're dating a gamer, a lot of them say that they want to make or write or animate games, right? A lot of people that are gamers, when you ask them, so what do you want to do? Do you want to do something with games? And just about everybody that plays games will say, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be in games, you know. But is it? Do they really want to do that? I mean, look at what we're doing. Okay, let's take a step back. We love games so much that we created a podcast, you know, so that we could just get to talk about it for an hour, you know. And I think that's for me, it's beautiful, but that satisfies my urge to talk about games, right?
Yeah.
And
or to be in the gaming industry,
or to be in the gaming
unquote.
industry,
Right,
right? And whatever happens with No Name Gaming, you know, in the future, great, you know, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, you have to start with something. I think the point of what this person is saying in this post is that a lot of gamers have an inclination to do something with gaming, but they never really do it. It's more of just a dream, you know. So I feel like what we're trying to do is also tell people, look, if you have a passion for this stuff, it's important to be upfront about it, to be honest about it with yourself.
Right.
Okay, so even forget about dating. Like, be honest about it with yourself, and how far do you want to go?
Right.
If you want to learn animation, then you got to go to school for that. If you want to learn how to draw concept art, you got to go to school for that. Unless you have raw natural talent, and most gamers are just spending their time
Playing the game.
Playing the games.
Yeah.
So,
I think in terms of relationships, I think it's just a meaning of balance. You know.
Yeah.
Because if that's your time to do your thing, I mean, I think every person has something that they enjoy doing by themselves or with their partner. They can bring them. But if that's your thing, that's your thing. But it's also a balance. So it's not every single Friday night. If your girlfriend is not a gamer, she's gonna be wanting to play.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's that. It's the respect of this is something that I enjoy doing, but I also will have a balance between our time and my time playing games.
Question: would you be open to, if you meet, let's say, a gamer, and this guy plays a couple days a week for a couple of hours, would you be open to play with him, to join him in that experience?
I mean,
to see what's going on there.
Honestly, for me to play a video game for a couple hours, it probably rip my eyeballs out because I don't, I can't just sit on the couch and do that. I don't even really watch movies because I like to be out and be active and stuff like that. I mean, if it was occasionally, but to a couple days a week for a couple hours, there's no way in hell I would.
No.
Because it's just not who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't go with my life. There's some people who, I don't know, they have a different lifestyle or a different hobby that doesn't go with mine.
Let me ask you a different question.
No, wait.
I have a really good one.
Wait. So, but, okay, you don't see yourself doing it.
Right.
But would you be open to consider it?
My question kind of gets at it because
yeah.
my question is, what games do you play?
So first of all, I play 0 games.
No, but it doesn't matter. Forget video games. What games have you played or do you play?
The game that okay.
Scrabble?
Scrabble, Monopoly, board games.
The only time I
sports.
play like Scrabble is with my family.
When the lights go out.
When
Hurricane season.
there's a hurricane, Category 5. Or I really liked Angry Birds 5 years ago.
There you go.
And then I played Mario Kart here and there. But it's I grew up with no video games in my house.
Oh.
I didn't have any siblings growing up, and all of my cousins were boys, and they played a lot of video games. But I was always really girly into Barbies and stuff like that. So
To
Zero
play
games.
with Barbies.
But Barbies is a game.
Yeah.
Because Barbies is role playing.
yeah,
And Dungeons and Dragons is all role playing.
Oh my God.
I see
but
that.
to
Totally
that
far-fetched.
point,
No,
I
it's
also
not.
haven't played
I see a
Barbies
direct
since I was
correlation.
6.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
exactly.
So there's a big
then,
gap there.
So
yeah.
So playing Barbies is a role-playing game.
Yeah, Barbies.
That
is-
you can relate to Dungeons and Dragons.
Absolutely, because
That's so cool.
That's so dark though.
it is
dark.
interesting though, because Dungeons and Dragons is
Do
all
you imagine
about
a
creating
Barbie
a
on
character.
top of a dragon or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have crossover universes in D&D all the time. You have princesses riding dragons all the time.
Right.
That's so cool.
Actually, my wife created a D&D character that was this beautiful elf princess, but she had one flaw. So I like to give my characters, I tell my players, when you create characters, you have to give them flaws. It's actually part of the D&D rule system. And
Interesting.
the flaw that this character had was every time she saw water, she had to jump in it. So of course I'm the dungeon master, so I'm presenting obstacles where there's water all over the place. You know, she walks into a dungeon, but there's a pool there with water. So her character is like, I want to help you guys out, but she jumps in the pool literally, and you know, so it's more about role playing and then understanding what drives your character to do certain things.
Do you know what D&D is?
No.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Do you know what Dungeons and Dragons is?
I mean, it's a game.
Yeah, it's a role-playing game. You play with dice.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly.
No, but I want you to explain to her how the game works.
So the game works. You get a couple people together. You know, a group of people. You have a dungeon master that is going to be the arbiter or the judge that tells you more or less the story. So like if you two were playing right now in front of me and I'm just going to give you some classes as an example. Say you're a warrior and say you're a wizard. Okay. And you find yourself in a dungeon and there's a wooden door in front of you. You're in a cell. You're in a 5x5 cell and there's a wooden door in front of you and it's locked. What do you do? Yeah. I would ask you, what do you do?
So when you create your character, you assign yourself certain
you have
powers
certain stats
and flaws, and you gotta go through your list of powers and say, "Oh, I'm gonna do this and this and that."
But say in this case, you have no powers. You're just a person locked in a room with a wooden door. What do you do?
I don't know.
You don't know? What would you do if you were locked in a room?
Like scream.
Exactly. So maybe scream. So maybe you start screaming. So then you would roll dice to see how loud you scream. And maybe somebody in another part of the dungeon heard you.
Okay.
But maybe that somebody was not a really good person that you wanted them to hear. Like an orc or a demon or a goblin or something. So that's when the story starts taking interesting twists.
I think
it's
that,
all
like,
role
now,
playing,
right.
Theater of the mind is what
I
it is.
think that it's like, now that you say that, it definitely opens up my mind that video games have a lot of like creativity and strategy behind them, and I mean that is really interesting, you know. But all I'm used to seeing is like a guy on a couch, like, you know, in his pajamas, playing video games and not listening to what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So
I get.
Like,
but
but this is opening up my mind though.
Yeah.
So.
So just to be clear, Dungeons and Dragons came before video games. So a lot of video games and a lot of games nowadays in general. Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons was invented in the 70s, early 70s, by a guy named Gary Gygax.
On acid.
Well, that's still up for debate. But regardless, he created this fantastic game, and it set the foundation of characters, role-playing, armor, shields, swords, magic, monsters, dragons, wizards. That is a DNA that he picked up from Lord of the Rings before him. So all this stuff that has come from literature has informed these people. So they created Dungeons and Dragons. And a lot of the games that we have nowadays that you hear us playing come from that DNA. So I think it's really cool that they have evolved. But anyways, so on that point, a few other things. So if you were to consider dating a person, as Tigre was getting, as F Coach was getting at. If you're considering, see, there's some of the things you could try. Okay, so you could let him have game time.
Yeah,
you could totally let him have game time. You
balance,
could say, balance. You know, you can have your game time. I'm gonna go do my girl stuff, and I can come back, and you know, you'll be ready for us time. Right?
Highly doubt that.
Highly doubt it, but it's one thing you could try.
Yeah, I could consider.
Of course.
So, let's say you're dating Jose here. It's a ghost in front of me. And Jose has Tuesday night game time.
Yeah.
And it's a couple of hours. What are you doing that time?
No, I mean, I would do my own thing.
What's your own thing?
I mean, I go to the gym.
Oh, that's your playtime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, on weekdays, I go to the gym. I get off work, go to the gym, and go home.
Okay, so that's cool. So
a very good example of a person. You know?
Here's another tip. What about you? What about the idea, again, and talking about it, what about the idea of finding your inner gamer? What about that idea? Like in there somewhere is someone.
But I just feel like my type of person, I like to be like active. I don't like to be sitting in one place.
Yes.
So I like to be moving around a lot. I like to go outside. If it's a beautiful day,
VR for her.
Yeah.
What?
VR for you.
Virtual reality. So you could be moving around and and jumping around and.
But it's like if it's a beautiful day outside and I'm not gonna stay inside and play video games.
Oh, el reto. That's her kind of game. Where you have to do something.
We have to do
stuff. Yeah. You're like, you guys are like convinced to like.
We're gonna bring you to the dark side. Some guy, you're gonna talk to some guy. He's gonna tell you he's a gamer, and you're gonna be like, I'm gonna try these fucking tips.
Hey, Manny, could you send me that article, please?
Yeah. Tip number 3, you can ask for help. So this is something that, and again, gaming is, men and women play games. So let's just say you can ask them for help. But that could also bring you closer, because if you think about it and you ask him or her, hey, I want to try playing this game. Could you help me out? That opens it up to a whole another possibility of things. And I don't know. I just find that kind of interesting. Now, I do have a lot of experience, playing games and dating people while I was playing those games. So I know that that's also a double-edged sword, because you can say, hey, I want to help you, but then,
When they're doing better than you, you get competitive.
No. I mean, that could be it.
Okay.
They could totally start doing really good. I mean, I know a lot of people that have really good hand-eye coordination. I also know a lot of people that get dizzy just watching, 3D
simulator.
Yeah,
so,
right.
it just depends on who you're dealing with. But yeah, I mean, that would actually be really interesting, is to be like, hey, do you want to play Mario Kart with me, and then get spanked up by this person and be like, you have this innate skill that you've never tapped before, and you could be, the next Einstein of video games, and you didn't even know it.
Well, this weekend I was playing with JM Smash Bros.
Okay.
And I don't know, I was the best in 2 of the. We played 3 fights, I think, and I was the best of all of us in 2 of them. And it was my very first time playing that.
Oh wow! So you did pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there you go. But see, you're a gamer though. So what you picked up
well, it's a language that we know. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bike. So you tell me I punch with this button, I jump with this button, then I'll figure out the rest myself.
Yeah.
The other thing was, and I don't think these are actual tips, because it's literally like do something else or let him concentrate. Which I find hilarious, because if you really have like an issue with it, then I guess you wouldn't do those things anyway.
Yeah.
So it almost seems to me like you wouldn't put yourself in that position.
She sounds like the type of girl that will have issues.
Yeah. I don't think Shadi is gonna be dating any gamers.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But let me tell you this: the minute she starts, we're bringing her back on the show
with him,
and we're gonna be like, "Yo,
counseling.
Dude, tell us what you're doing,"
counseling.
Or counseling.
Yeah.
Right?
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Yes.
So that's pretty much all I had in terms of like tips and things from the internet. But I think the other thing that we wanted to talk about too was, since you've never actually played any video games.
Not even Mario?
I mean, maybe I could count on one hand how many times I have since I was little.
Like the very first Mario.
Yeah. That one's fun. Fun. Yeah.
So.
The little control.
Yeah, A and B, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. A and B, and that's it. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I would be on for that.
So if you would be open to that, then I think what we need to do next is see how long we can get you to sit down and play one of these games.
Oh yeah,
that would be the experiment. And if you lose your mind after like 10 minutes, then we'll get it. We get it. But.
Who knows? I mean, I haven't played as like an adult now, so maybe I don't know.
What's an adult?
I mean, I'm like almost 30. I'm almost 30, so.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? I played like when I was like,
When you were a kid.
Yeah, when I was a kid.
So you consider yourself already an adult?
No, I'm like adult.
30s
Junior.
and 20. So
we are adults?
You guys are like...
We're like super adult.
Yeah, you guys are like
adult.
Adult.
I'm like dad bod adult.
I'm going to embrace my maturity. I'm not an adult.
Right, because you guys are gamers, so subtracts like 15 years.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Gaming keeps me young.
Exactly.
I can make stupid remarks and meme all day.
Yeah.
And just blame it on the game.
On the gaming, yeah. No, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I just played too many games last night.
Yeah.
My brains don't work.
I have a question for Shadi. Yes. For Troppy P.
Troppy P. Yeah.
Do you have any cases of friends, like girlfriends of you that they have like a boyfriend or a husband that it's a gamer and they have issues because of him?
No, I mean, not that I know of, but
No.
not that I can like think of off the top of my head. No, but none of my friends are gamers, so I mean, well, except for you guys, but
yeah.
Oh, we're your friends.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet, man. We got friends, man. Yeah. Love it.
But I don't have other friends that are gamers,
No.
but yeah.
Maybe because you rejected them as friends.
Exactly. I'm like,
also.
you're a gamer, can be friends. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I want to like find out what gym you go to and set up like Duck Hunt, like the machine that you're using. amusing to just see what happens.
I'm pretty sure she's
know?
gonna love .com.
Because what I've basically gathered is that you're a competitive person, because if you're competitive with working out, that's like one of the best traits to have as a gamer. I'm telling you right now. F Coast will disagree, because he's more about like, I'm just gonna chill with my game. I'm just gonna have my own experience. But I like PvP. I like going into a game and obliterating the next guy.
PvP means player versus player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Thank you for
that's
that
a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
So you could consider Mario Kart like a PvP type of game where you're
It's
playing
true.
with other people.
Yeah.
So that's something that's interesting, and I don't know, maybe that might be something that would be interesting to you at some point.
Yeah.
But I doubt it highly. But it's just something to think about.
Maybe I
Not
should
even PvP.
pretend to like
not
it,
there.
and maybe that's how I'll meet my like future
Yeah.
like you
You never
husband
know.
or something.
Yeah, maybe you never know. So I just
Never say
you have
never.
to be open to it. That's all.
Yeah.
So when whoever this guy is tells you he's a gamer, you'll remember this day.
I
You'll
will.
be like, son of a. These guys warned me.
I
These
know,
guys
like
warned me.
okay.
Yeah. No, but you can totally make it work. Like I really feel like my my situation now. You guys know I have a kid. He's 1.5, and we do the best that we can to make sure that he's comfortable and that he's doing his thing before we put him before
Right.
anything
So
that
is your
we
wife
do.
a gamer?
So my wife's not a gamer, but my wife can get down if she wants to get
Okay,
down. So
cool.
so she plays Mario Kart. She's beaten me in Mario Kart before.
Does she consider herself a gamer?
So, but she doesn't really consider herself a
Okay,
gamer.
but she's
just-
good at- she's just good.
She can just pick it up and be good. She played World of Warcraft back in the day when World of Warcraft first started, and she leveled a druid to like level 20 before she was like, "Fuck this." Like it took way too long to level back
We're
then.
exactly the same.
Yeah, and she was like, "Screw this! It's way
Okay.
too complicated for me."
That
and-
was me too.
And it's too time consuming. I think that was her biggest thing. Not really that it was complicated. It was more just the time consumption.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's like for some reason those games are very time consuming. They just
Yeah.
irritate
So what do
me.
you guys do besides gaming and besides work? What are your like other hobbies?
Oh, that's a great question. You want to go first, or you want me to go?
Okay, I do a lot of things actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like I like doing art. I like to draw a lot and paint. I also produce music. I have like a little home studio in my apartment.
Nice.
So I do music, any kind of music. I play guitar also. I have a drum set, so that's something that I do a lot. I like writing. So I've written a movie script before, several short films and a feature film, and right now I'm writing a new one, slowly but surely. What else do I do?
I think that's enough.
I
I
think
think
that
you're
you're
gonna make me look really, really bad right now. I don't even know how I can follow that up. I'm just a fucking gamer, guys.
Yeah, my hobbies. That's why this person says that I'm always working, but I'm not working in my head.
Yeah.
It's just my hobbies are that kind of stuff where I'm not sitting down just getting something. I do things.
Yeah.
As a creative person.
On that note, really quickly, do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think that gaming helps your creativity?
Oh yeah, a lot. Especially the kind of games that I like. In my opinion, the games that I like are very story driven instead of just competitive games.
Right.
So I learn a lot about storytelling, and even my favorite games of all time. Not all time, but one of my favorite games right now is called Nier Automata. And the topic of the story is it's in the realm of existentialism philosophy. So those are things that I get from
So
games.
your alley.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I also love very story driven games because I'm also a writer and I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I think last year I read.
Yeah, that's another hobby
I
of
read-
mine, reading.
Yeah, I read almost 40 books.
Wow.
Between short stories, novellas, and actual full length novels. And then I do a lot of my own writing. I write a lot of poetry. And I'm just a fan of doing a lot of things revolving writing. So if I'm not reading or writing, then you'll catch me obviously doing all my family stuff and then gaming in the middle whenever I can do that.
If you had to be known for one thing, would you rather be like a famous writer or a famous gamer?
Thank you for not asking me.
I
that.
think I'd rather be known as a famous writer gamer. Because, and I'll tell you why. The same thing that.
What do you mean a writer gamer like?
So the same thing that I
Like
first
Ernest
kind of
Cline
said.
or something like that?
No, not well. Ernest Cline is one way to think about it, but.
Ernest Cline is a guy. I don't know if you. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
interrupted.
sure.
I don't know if you saw the recent movie that came out. It's called Ready Player One. It's a new genre in literature.
Mm-hmm.
Am I saying that word?
said that right,
You
yeah.
said that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it again. That is called
Nice.
literatura. It's called lit RPG.
Right.
And it's basically literature around virtual reality and games and things. And this movie is about a boy that through VR it goes into a world that's basically based off. It was born out of a video game.
So he lives in this virtual reality world, and the movie's really cool. But let me give you some perspective of why I think that way. So one of my first loves of literature were these books called Lone Wolf by an author named Joe Dever. And if you've ever read a Choose Your Own Adventure book, then you know what I'm talking about. So Choose Your Own Adventure is, you don't read it from beginning to end. You read chapter
Those are
one,
really good.
and then you get choices, and you read. And then
That
you
is
go.
really cool.
So
Yeah.
those are the
It
books
is.
that I grew up loving. So what I'm working on now is a book like that, where you have.
Those are amazing.
And in these books, you equip armor, you equip spells because you do battle with monsters and stuff like that. So my dream is to intertwine both, and so yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I
and I think our
remember
mic's
those-
picking up. Our mic is probably picking up some
Yeah,
extraterrestrial
somebody's playing
activity.
something. But that's
Aliens
fine.
are
It's
landing on
okay.
the building right
It's
now.
okay. That's fine. But I remember those little books. I remember I never had those kind of books. But I do remember that my cousin Francis he had a couple of them, and I will always ask him
Yeah, let me borrow that.
borrow the
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
And actually, if I remember correctly, I kind of tear a page on one of them by accident. And he was so pissed.
Yeah, because you can never go back to that.
Exactly.
And that's part of the story. So yeah, I would say writing and gaming kind of for me are intertwined. Also because as a dungeon master for Dungeons and Dragons, I have to actively write a story for you. So in that sense, gaming and writing is also
Right,
kind of
yeah,
intertwined.
that is
Now I do love the traditional format of writing a novel, and I've worked on several novels and editing novels, and I think that is probably where I will gravitate more towards later on in life. But while I still have this incredible dexterity in these fingers and this incredible hand-eye coordination, I'm gonna use it, man, and I'm gonna kill noobs and own noobs out there, because that's part of what I do.
I want to respond to that question actually.
Oh, now you want to answer it?
Yeah, because I was thinking about it while you were answering, and I think I have a response. Is one of my biggest passions, if not my biggest passion, is music. So, and lately, while you were talking, I realized, hey, I'm making music inspired in games soundtracks.
I'm glad that what you
At
didn't
the
think
moment.
was, while I was talking, this guy's a fucking retard. I'm glad that what you thought was something cool.
Yeah, something, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's in
That makes me feel
how you
much
say
better.
intertwining things.
Yeah.
So that's what I intertwined.
Good.
So it was because I like making music and all that, and this game that I just mentioned, one of my favorite things about that game is the soundtrack that it has, and that inspired me to actually try to make music inspired in that sound that soundtrack has. And I've been doing that for a couple of months. And if I ever wanted to be recognized as something in the gaming industry, it would probably be as a composer.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
That is really cool.
Good. So when we
F codes.
when F goes to
This
composer,
game.
yeah,
The music by F
F
codes.
codes. Yeah. Story by Manny Fresh.
Manny Fresh.
That is
And
cool.
creative art direction by Trumpet P.
Troppy P.
Sweet. Who was not dating any gamers during the making of this game.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
Even though
too.
she's here.
even though she's here, yeah. So I think that's really cool. We have, again, so you see now, I hope that this gives you a little
Yeah,
bit of
open my
glimpse
mind a
as to
little bit.
open your mind
Yeah,
a little
sure.
bit. One of the things also that we didn't mention, but is part of the reason why I also love games, and it goes back to being story driven. I've always wanted, like when I was a kid and I watched Superman, and I was mesmerized by being Superman. What about being Superman? You know, what about being Superman in a game and having all those powers
right.
and doing all those things and going through a story, you know, from beginning to end, just like if you were reading a book or watching a movie, but being an active participant in the story. So that was also a big draw for me. But at the same time, it's time consuming. So just like anything else in life, I think you make a good point with the balance thing because and I mentioned this in the first podcast, all those things that we love to do, reading, writing, music, they do take away from other things in life, right? So it's opportunity cost. So what you know?
I mean, it's like she says. She's completely right. Everything is a balance.
Yeah, everything's a balance.
Even if I spend my entire, I mean, reading is not as taboo. Well, it's not taboo as gaming is.
Right.
But if I spend the entire day reading, you'll be like, what the fuck?
Well, so let me tell you, I mean, in case you didn't know, but when books first became mass produced because of the printing press, there was a sickness in the world, and it was called the reading sickness because everyone was reading, and people thought, oh my God, you know, we can't have all these people reading all the time. Like people are gonna get lost in the books.
That's true.
And I mean, fast forward to today. Look at us. We're
Social
gaming,
media,
and it's gaming and social media where we have un vicio.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how life changes. But life changes. But all we're really doing as humans is consuming content.
Well, if you think about it, it happened with books. We were talking about this the other day. It happens with books, but then the phone came out. And, well, I grew up in a house where my mom was always complaining because I was always on the phone. Este muchacho siempre en ese teléfono. And then it was a computer. Este muchacho siempre en la computadora. And then it was a Nintendo. Este muchacho en el Nintendo. So there's always a thing. That's new. That's unknown. That's not as tradition. And it's always a vicio. It's a vicio.
It's disruption is what it is.
So what was like the limit? So like you have a kid. And I mean, when he becomes of age to like play video games and stuff, what is like the limit for you?
Thank you.
That's a great question. I haven't really thought about it because he's not there yet. He's old enough to know that I'm playing video games. He comes over to me when I'm playing them. He knows a couple of the games that I have on my phone, and he knows how to start them.
They're so smart.
And he's 1.5 years old, and he can open up Hearthstone, and he cracks up when he hears the little dwarf say, "Welcome to Hearth," "Welcome to the inn," and he just starts cracking up. But I don't know what enough is going to be enough. Knowing what enough is for me, and what enough is for you and for you, I think everybody's different. So, but in moderation, obviously, I'll know more or less, how to guide him. So if I see that he's investing too much time, I'll do my best to be a good parent and try to
take it away, play yourself.
Take it away from him. Show him, bro, you're not doing it right. Like, this is how you shoot people in the face. Right. So.
Well, we go back to the balance.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you asked that question because I don't have kids, but my sister has a kid. Well, she has 2 kids, but one of them, Nicolas, he loves video games. And
how old is he?
He's 6.
Okay, well.
And thing is, I have this whole, kind of. I want to give him games. I want him to play with me. I would like to get a Switch for him. But my sister doesn't want me to give him more games than what he has.
What's a Switch?
It's a Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, and I'm like, you're wrong, but you're right.
Yeah.
Because when I see Nicolas, he's I mean, we lose him
that's
completely. And he could be there for hours and hours and hours. And when my sister or her husband, the father, ask him to drop it, he goes
nuts.
Yeah.
So I want to avoid that. And I know that the reality is that he's going to be just like me, and he's going to be like, screw you, Dad, I'm going to play whatever I want. But at the same time, I want to be able, first of all, I think one way that I could come at it is if I like maybe pick up the same game and just totally destroy him 100 times in a row and just destroy his will to play games. Maybe I could come at it from that angle, or I could just, you know, again, the whole time moderation thing.
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be the best way. Also, you
Leading
can
by example. Also.
lead by example. You know, I'm not playing at times when he's even awake now, so he doesn't see too much of it, and he's not overexposed to it. So it is something to think about when you have children and when you have family members, because if they get started way too young, there's that possibility that they could become super addicted.
And like also, I think it also can limit like certain social skills.
Yeah, well, which goes back to the whole thing that we were saying, you know, maybe...
Or do you think it, I mean, I guess I could ask the question, do you think it limits certain social skills?
Not anymore. I used to think that it did. I used to think that it did, but now because most of social conventions happen online, a lot of social interaction happens online. What I've actually seen is people that would normally have been introverts open up in an online world where you know, they joke about stuff and we have relationships. I've met so many people in World of Warcraft. I've met people, I've flown to California, hung out with them. I've had entire guilds come over my house and sleep over.
Sounds safe.
It's totally safe. No one's been murdered yet, and we've had a lot of fun. So it's all in good spirit and fun, and I think that camaraderie you don't find you can't even find it in a physical setting. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the games.
True.
Right.
Because if it were for me,
well, World of Warcraft is a team game.
Exactly.
Where I have
And it's an online game
working towards something.
And there's a bunch of people playing at the same time, and you meet people and you build guilds or however that's going. Yeah. But I'm not that kind of gamer. So for games that are not as social as that, I think it does limit.
It does.
Because I mean, even for me, I mean,
we'll take Dark Souls for example. I love taking Dark Souls as an example because it's a game that you play individually, but people can.
It's so lonely, that game.
It's kind of like a lonely game, but people can appear on your map all of a sudden and try to kill you. You know, and it's like you're
but
not gonna
that's
make
not
friends
social.
with those people,
Exactly,
because that's not social.
Right.
So it just depends on the game.
But also, even me, like I don't have
people could also appear and help you out too.
Huh?
People could also appear in the map and help you out too.
Yeah.
So it just depends on their predisposition.
But you don't make a relationship with those people.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Now, I've added friends to games just because they help me out with one thing, and they're random people, and I have created friends, you know, over time with some friends.
Maybe
some
I'm
people.
very antisocial.
Maybe I think that's what we're getting at. Is
because the thing is that I'm not a very you know, I don't have
I classify you
problems.
as antisocial.
I don't have problems socializing, but I'm a little bit
picky.
Not picky.
But I think you guys could have that as a topic on like another show. Is like, if are you social in real life and you're not?
Yeah.
What is your preference
what is your
in
alter
gaming?
ego in gaming?
What is your alter ego?
Well, in gaming, you create an avatar and you kind of live through that avatar, right?
Because
So
you
that's a
could
great topic.
create like a alter ego that's very much like you, but be even cooler if it's not like you.
Yeah, just so you know, most of the avatars I created are female. Because for me, the female characters look way better than the male characters in the game. Just the art and everything, the armor, the way that they cast spells, their motions and everything. I mean, you could argue whatever for that.
No. I
psychologically, philosophically, what it means.
I always do female characters, but not for those reasons.
Oh,
I don't know why. I don't have a rational explanation.
Not that I haven't made male characters. I have you know, all kinds, but I usually gravitate towards female.
But the thing is that sorry, I judged you.
It's okay. You were giving me the judgy eye.
Well, because the first
thing,
you
were side eyeing.
Judge eye.
When you started explaining why you make the girl characters, it felt like you kind of liked physically or the girls.
Aesthetically, the girls. Female characters are much better looking. They're much. I have to stare at this character for 500,000 hours. Like, you know,
that's weird to me.
No, I don't think. I think it's fun.
I think it makes sense.
I don't know. I honestly go make a human male in World of Warcraft so you can see what I'm talking about. They just look so bad. They just look so bad.
Well, but about the social thing, I feel that they're like Dark Souls. They're like Nier Automata, like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is a game that you're lost in space, basically, and you're alone.
It's like my life.
So no, they're very lonely games, and they suck you in a world that at least for me, when I get out of it for just playing for a couple of hours, I'm like kind of lost.
Really?
You know,
It's like a buzz.
and I it doesn't happen to me because I started playing those games, you know, being an adult. But I would think that for kids growing up, playing those kind of games in a room for hours and hours
would have some sort of
not related
negative
with,
effect.
Yeah.
I think
Cognitively, I think.
I would say yes.
I'm not
I would
going to
say
put
yes.
my finger and say that there is one. I don't think scientifically anyone has been able to
Yeah, I
prove
don't
it.
have. Yeah,
but
we're
it's
not
and we're not
Yeah,
doctors.
yeah,
But
yeah.
again, here's another adjacency where games and psychology kind of touch, and people have always struggled with how much is too much.
Right.
Yeah.
You know. So, but with that being said, I think I first of all I want to thank Tropic P for hanging out with
was
us
the best.
on
Yay.
episode 2. So
I'm like your favorite guest so far.
totally,
right?
you're totally
yeah.
our favorite.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're totally our
Top
favorite.
one
Yeah, exactly.
out of one.
I'm the best.
One of one.
Best. Yes.
You know, and that means something to us because we may not have any more guests because no one may want to.
No.
She's coming back.
When you guys
Yeah.
have 1 million subscribers, don't forget
Okay.
about Choppy.
All right, we won't. Okay, cool. But with that, yeah, this is Manny Fresh and F Coast signing out on episode 2.
Yeah.
Great. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.